Welcome back to the show, everyone. Craig and Jonah here today. We're back to our normal content. I don't
For a brief interruption.
Yeah. We did a more of a somber reflection on 9/11, and now we're back to masturbation jokes and Onan stories. So in picking on other people. I'm going to play a short clip of a podcast that we have played before. I just want to reflect on a little bit and get Jonah's reactions. I have not shared this with Jonah. He does not know what I'm going to talk about, but let me go ahead and get started here. So hopefully this will come through.
The question for this week is oral sex okay? And so there's a little bit,
I would think so.
There's some yes and no to this question. Let's go with the no first, because that's a little easier. And then we'll talk about the yes. Oral stimulation of the male genitals to climax is not licit. And the reason for that is because the male orgasm is inherently connected to the procreative aspect of his biology, meaning that the orgasm and ejaculation happen at the same time, they coincide. And so that means that his orgasm needs to happen during penetration when it has the ability to fulfill its procreative purpose. Now, if it was oral stimulation of the man's genitalia, like as part of foreplay, that is okay, but not to climax. And then on the woman's side, the woman's orgasm is actually separate from her procreative process. So it is okay that the woman's orgasm actually happen outside of penetration, so long as it is within one full sexual act, meaning that maybe it happens right before penetration, maybe it happens right after it, but not, say, 20 minutes later after you've already started cleaning up. And the woman's like, oh, wait a second, actually, I never orgasmed. Can we go do that? That would be a new sexual act. So oral stimulation of the female genitalia is absolutely licit. There's no part of the body that is unkissable. There's no part of the body that is untouchable. And in fact, oral stimulation can be a very effective way to arouse the female body.
I don't disagree with you there.
It's something to maybe even consider if you haven't done it before and you have trouble becoming aroused enough. But it's absolutely like morally licit so long as it's within that one complete sexual act.
So, man, I mean, those are some tough rules. Like,
Where feels like legalism.
Where does that rule come from? Like, that's the real issue. Like, is that written in theology of the body? Like, that it has to be within the sexual act? Like, what if the sexual act lasts like 10 hours? Because, like, it's true. Like, you read about those guys that can, like, not ejaculate or whatever. It's like they can have sex for like a day, And I'm not quite, I don't have that stamina, but working towards it. But, so like, I don't know, or like, where she talks about, stimulating the man. What if it is one of these guys that can like do it without ejaculating? Like, I mean, is that illicit then too? To train your body?
Well,
to refrain from ejaculating during orgasm. Like, I don't know. And I mean, I don't have the willpower to do anything like that, but I'm just saying maybe most guys don't, but there's certain guys that can. Like, I think it's like some kind of like Taoist technique or whatever. Like,
well, even if we just get to more of a real world scenario, which is that women can certainly have multiple orgasms. Like for us, we're kind of, off limits for a little while before you can do that again.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you could get away with this stuff. You're off camera here.
There's a lot of safety over here. I tried to convince him to come over to the side over here long ago.
Too late.
Yeah.
But so I guess first of all, to answer your question about where it's at, not the catechism. I'm pretty confident of that.
Yeah, there's nothing about you gotta be within the sexual act. Like, I mean,
and I
And I'm not saying she's wrong either. I'm
not
just saying
she's
that
wrong either, but I would really like to see footnotes to this little discussion.
totally. Like, I mean, because just where are those teachings, and like, where are they? And is it really some sort of binding teaching? You know, like, is it just from some talk that somebody gave, or like where Christopher West decides that is fine and that, you know, people just latch onto that? But I mean, is that really binding? Like, is it really a rule, or is it just a made up, I don't know, a stipulation that has gained traction? I don't know.
Well, I've had discussions with this podcast host about this question. I said, can you tell me where this concept is at? And I believe, I'd have to go back and look, she said it's in Love and Responsibility, which is one of John Paul's books. I don't know if it's part of Theology of the Body, but it's a JP2 writing.
So is that binding though?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, he wrote it when he was a cardinal. He was not Pope when he wrote it. Even if he was, like, I don't think the theology of the body, like, I don't think Theology of the Body and the Monday audiences or whatever, Wednesday audiences, when he gave a lot of those, I don't think is binding on us. But
because popes can have opinions that aren't binding, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And when I've pressed her on this, she's like, oh, you're just too focused on the rules. And I'm like, well, when you tell me something is illicit, and by illicit, I take that to mean sinful and
very sinful at that.
Potentially grievously sinful. Yeah, I do have questions. I do want to see where you know, someone come, you know, you give someone an elaborate math problem, they come and here's the answer. Like, well, how the hell? I want to see your work.
I want to see your work. Yeah.
And that's one thing that when it comes to this kind of stuff, I want to see the work, because, you know, of course I step back and I think, well, the average Catholic, I think you're going to go to the catechism and you're going to look for the answers there. If it's not there, how is the average Catholic going to know that?
Yeah, they can't dig up a speech or, you know, an encyclical writing from, like, you know, 50 years ago or whatever.
I purchased another copy of Love and Responsibility the other day, and I'm going through it. I've read it before. I'm pretty confident it's certainly not spelled out in exact terms. Now,
because I mean, you know, like you said, you're too focused on the rules. Yeah, you have to have an orgasm within the specific time frame. So go. Start the stopwatch.
It sure feels like a legalism that people like her have accused me of by asking these kinds of questions, because I'm like, well, how long is that? Is it 19 minutes and 30 seconds afterwards? Like you said, is the husband got to be sitting there with a stopwatch and be like, stop.
It's been completed. It's been completed. Oh, you're just a little bit too late.
Yeah, go to confession. That, I mean, I guess what's so amazing is for people that will get up and just with a straight face just recite these as doctrine, and well, how do I know you're right? And how do I know whoever said this is right? And how do I know, you know? So but that whole idea, like, and here's the other thing. This whole let's just talk about the male, for example. This whole concept that, well, the male orgasm is part and parcel to his fertility or whatever. And, well, number one, no, it's not. I mean, we know from pulling out that guys can have pre-cum, or, you know, you could have it come out before ejaculation. So
got to keep all that in there too, or whatever.
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, so I think there's a biological inaccuracy in that idea. But even
you could also just do it twice. You know, I'm just saying.
Right. Well, but even number two is like, okay, yes, let's just concede the fact that they're interrelated. It doesn't automatically follow that separating them is wrong. Like, I think they're like, you know, let's see that the sun came up today, therefore God exists, or something like that. Well, yeah, the sun came up, that, but it doesn't automatically follow that God exists from that. Like, I think they just think that because they paired this reality with this concept that, and I'm like, I'm not sure it follows necessarily.
And in nature, I mean, there's nocturnal emissions. So, I mean, it's not like it's only connected to that singular act.
Exactly. And
it's not like the sperm get better over time. They tend to degrade. And so you maybe have this massive amount of sperm there, but a lot of them aren't good anymore.
yeah, it's not like you're wasting. It's not like there's a finite supply of it or whatever. So that's, I think it sounds nice in theory, and maybe it's true. Like I said, I'm not saying it's not accurate, but
it's not easy to find.
Yeah, I think if you got to go digging into and kind of reading between the lines of a document, a lengthy document that Pope John Paul II wrote when he was a cardinal, I don't know how binding that is on people.
Like, for example, with the encyclical that Pope Francis wrote on the environment, what is it? Laudato Si?
Laudato, yeah.
Something like that. I'm sorry, I can't speak Latin, but are we bound then to protect the environment at all costs?
Depends who you ask.
Like, I mean, seriously, like
those that like it say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those that don't like it say no. But I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it's done ex cathedra. It's not. I don't think it's considered infallible.
Because otherwise, you could never speak or have thoughts, right? Because everything would be still binding.
Yeah. But so, yeah, I just when I hear that, because and then like and I've always thought that I can sort of see the logic in the idea of the man, with how, whether it's masturbation or whatever, like the pleasure, the climax is very much associated with fertility, because that's when the sperm is exiled or whatever. But
exiled, huh?
Yeah. That was the name that came to me.
Parting the Red Sea.
Yeah, right.
Anyways,
so but for the female, I think the logic becomes even more gray in my mind, because as she says, the female orgasm is, I wouldn't say it's completely unrelated, but for a lot of ladies, it's not even present.
Yep.
It's certainly not necessary for reproduction. I mean, it's pretty hard for women to get pregnant if the man doesn't ejaculate, but there's nothing. I mean, there may be some biological benefit to female orgasm. I've heard that if you have an orgasm, it sort of draws things in further and maybe improves your odds of becoming pregnant, but it's I think it's a minor factor and certainly not required. And so the idea that, well, it can happen, because here's what I think here's where I think the rule really came from, that I actually agree with, is John Paul II. Pretty remarkable, thinking about a celibate cardinal talking about these things, but he talked about how for a lot of women it's common for them not to achieve climax during sex, and a lot of them are frustrated, rightly so, from that. And that I think there was the idea that for husbands, it's our job to go, try hard to make sure that our wives experience all the pleasure that goes with it, if it's possible. Like, that's fine. But then to kind of like piece that together and say, yeah, you could do it outside of the act of intercourse itself, but it's got to be within 20 minutes or whatever, like that, they're just making this up. I think
true. I mean, sometimes in our house the whole day is just one long sexual act. I don't know.
Well, there you go. So
I mean, I don't know how you define that.
Well, that's why when I asked her, like, women are capable of achieving multiple orgasms,
So can you keep it going?
Yeah, so like, what do we start in the morning, and every 30 minutes, every 20 minutes?
Did she say 20 minutes?
she said it can't be 20 minutes, but like,
Oh, that she did say, yeah, it can't be longer than that. Or
yeah. So that seems very arbitrary, but let's just assume it's 20 minutes.
Okay.
All right, honey, 15 minutes.
Ah,
We're
I
gonna
mean-
get you going again. If that's like, what the heck is defined as a sexual act at that point in time?
I don't know. That's, I don't know. That's where the legalism side of it falls apart. I mean, it does.
I mean, it feels like they are trying to. My sort of cynical side thinks that this is part of their elaborate effort to like you got this, like I said, you sort of have this logical, although I don't think it's all that convincing, but you have sort of this plausible logical explanation for why male orgasm has to occur with intercourse. Okay, I could see that, but I don't see the same logical connection between that and the female orgasm. And I think they don't want a situation where the male orgasm has to, but female orgasm can occur whenever and however, and they don't want that happening. And so they got to kind of gotta fence in this part of it, so that, because that's one of the things I've always said. All right, let's don't start with the male orgasm. Don't start with male whatever, but like, show me how you get to female masturbation or female orgasm outside of sexes. Not okay. Like, show me how you get to there. And if logic says there's nothing showing why it would be wrong for women, so then why is it wrong for guys? Because I kind of feel like that's what's going on here, implicitly or not, because they can't have a situation where, let's say, male masturbation or whatever, however you want to call it, is not okay, but it is okay for women. And so I don't know. It's just this is sort of the kind of weird situation you get in when you're going to hold these concepts that are, like I said, not found in the catechism, maybe found in theology of the body, and maybe found in some other papal comments somewhere back in the 50s or whatever. But
yeah, there's no definitive guide to Catholic sex.
Yeah.
And the rules have changed. I think we can link back to one of our previous episodes. Just, there used to be all kinds of days that were forbidden and different things you couldn't do. And I mean, it has evolved over time.
Well, that was the immediate thought that came to me when she's like, it has to be within a certain period of time. And it can't be more than 20 minutes or whatever. And I'm thinking, this sounds a lot like our medieval sex practices or sex rules.
Medieval sex practice.
Yeah.
Just think of the torture chamber.
Yeah.
But what's interesting too is, like, so I was reading about masturbation the other day, and
who doesn't?
Well, about the rules. And so it wasn't forbidden until the year 1054, which ironically is also the same year that the Eastern rites split away from the church. So I'm not saying they're connected, but it's just an interesting connection. It's not connected, but it's just a really odd coincidence. That Pope did a lot of stuff, and but you think for the first 1,000 years, you didn't really have much to worry about. I wonder what the teaching was like, yeah, but maybe it's different. Like Father Longenecker said, we don't live under natural conditions. So people probably, like, they didn't have iPhones to look at before they went to bed, or, whatever. They just had their spouse, and maybe that's what they did instead of watching Netflix, and then, it just worked out. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you, I can't help but think when you start saying this rule, if it's a rule, is spelled out in theology, in Love and Responsibility, which was authored in the 60s or 70s. Okay, what do we do for the Catholic that lived in the Middle Ages? Like, that didn't exist. It probably wasn't even a catechism they read. Like, how do they navigate listen and illicit stuff in the bedroom?
Yeah.
Like, and you still have very underdeveloped parts of the world now that, I'm just curious how many of them sit up worrying about licit and illicit acts and love and responsibility. And it sort of feels like a first world problem.
It
We're
does.
just like bored. We figured out all the other stuff. Now we gotta like burden ourselves with scrupulous legalism about
Where you ejaculate.
yeah, how long what's your window is to have a female orgasm and I don't know.
Get to work, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't want this encoder to end.
Yeah, I just imagine like you could get like a digital clock up on the bedroom wall and you hit that start and like yeah, like a buzzer goes off.
Didn't make it.
Points didn't count.
Yeah.
Shot was made after the clock.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, there's just a lot of explaining that needs to be done as far as
Yeah. I'm genuinely curious about this, and anyone that comes across this, I mean, there's an open invitation to anyone that wants to come on, and we'll be respectful
Mhm.
for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we might joke, but
Yeah, but like just show us the work. Like
Mhm.
show us how you get from point A to point Z here.
And my issue, I don't doubt that somebody has said this at some point,
Yeah.
or like that. It's fine. It's fine to think about that, but for it to be
Yeah.
binding,
Yeah, I would like to see number one, where the rule is, and number two, if someone could say, other than saying, well, the church teaches this and therefore you have to accept it. Beyond that, can someone provide some logical explanation to me why the Lord would be deeply offended if the wife orgasms 25 minutes after intercourse? Like, help me understand that.
I mean, maybe you get a leg cramp or something, like, I mean, like, seriously, like, gotta go get some potassium and then get back in there,
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe I don't know, does the onan punishment kick in at that point in time? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll listen to any story. I'll listen to any explanation, but there doesn't seem to be a rush of people out there to explain that. And I think just saying, well, that's what the rule is and move on. I don't know. For a lot of people, I guess that's enough. I'm just not quite all that satisfied with that. So
Yeah, I agree.
so anyway, open invitation. Reach out to us if you want to come on. Maybe we'll I don't know, send you a parting gift or something like that. If you come on and do it. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, till next time, thanks, Jonah. Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.